And our next speaker is Stephen Higgins. Stephen is a dialysis patient from Suffolk. He's on the transplant waiting list and has his own filmmaking company. Very fascinating gentleman. I often talk to Stephen. Let's hear his story.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Pete, for that introduction. I guess with these things, it's best to start chronologically. So I'm going to talk from my childhood and then bring us up to date. So I had quite a disrupted childhood. I was in and out of care quite a lot from a very young age, from 7 or so. And by the time I got to adolescence, I was in and out of various foster placements, some of which were successful, some of which broke down. And around about that time, I was beginning to experience mental health challenges, and I ended up attempting suicide by overdose 2 or 3 times in my adolescence. Fast forward 30 odd years later, and I find myself with food poisoning, walking into Addenbrooke's A&E one Christmas Eve. And I distinctly remember the worried look on the consultant's face when he came back with my blood results and asked me if I had any history of kidney problems in my family. And I said, no, none at all, none I could think of or remember. So he said, well, we're a bit worried because your kidney function is at 18%, which I took the usual male approach to, which like 18%, that's not bad. Could be a lot worse. I can get on with that. So I pretty much ignored that and was discharged, was treated for my food poisoning and was discharged. And was then contacted by, I guess, having been in A&E, that started some sort of process, because I was then contacted by the low clearance team who deal with people who are pre-dialysis. I was specifically contacted by Nikki Moncrief. Some of you might know her. I think she might actually be listening. I owe that woman a huge apology, because I know how difficult it was for her to get hold of me and convince me that I actually needed some treatment. Eventually, she rang me at my desk at work, and she said, like, how are you feeling? Like, do you feel tired and stuff? And that started to clue me in. And then I said, when you say I've got 18% kidney function, do you mean it's reduced by that amount, or I've got that amount left? And she said, no, that's what you've got left. That's the point when it hit me, and I realised that I was unwell. So I started cooperating a little bit more with the low clearance team, and I was seen regularly by them, and we were beginning to discuss dialysis options. And I went along to a dialysis training morning one side and settled on peritoneal dialysis as at home as the treatment that I will take on. And in the beginning, it was very difficult to get used to. Those of you that have had PD will know that part of it is you need to carry this fluid around in your abdomen for a number of hours, and that can cause an odd shape, in your abdomen, and that made me quite self-conscious. Also, I'm not that good at this medical stuff, clearly, because over the next year, I ended up with sepsis twice. The second time, they brought me in and removed the catheter from my abdomen, and then I was in hospital for a bit. And we had a discussion between the doctors and I, and we decided that we were going to switch to HD. So that's it. So then, and then I went into Addenbrooke's for an operation, and in one operation, they removed the catheter from my abdomen, inserted a catheter in my chest, and built a fistula in my left wrist. It was at this point I also quit full-time work and decided to start my video production company, Bigger Pictures, that Pete mentioned. So I had the fistula, and I was having dialysis through the fistula, which meant I was being needled 3 times a week, which I found I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was extremely painful. It's one of it's one of the worst pains, and I've had gout and all sorts. Um, but the needling I found it extremely painful, and I didn't find that I was having more efficient dialysis than I would through the chest line. So I was quite put out by that. And as the situation stands, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself there. So I was being dialyzed through the fistula, and then one morning at 9 a.m. I got a call from the transplant team telling me that there was a kidney in Alan Brooks. I need to be there the next hour to prepare for transplant, which everyone else was a lot more excited about than I was. I mean, of course, I wanted to come off dialysis, but facing down a transplant operation was quite scary, and that's the only thing that I felt going into hospital was fear. Anyway, I went into hospital, had the transplant operation. The next day, when I was taken off my patient administered pain meds, I was just in excruciating pain. I was in agony, and they couldn't figure out why. So I was taken back down to theatre, opened up again, and they found some clotting on the kidney, which they sorted out, closed me up, sent me back to the ward. And the next morning, again, once I was off of the pack, I was in extreme pain, like agony, like the worst pain possible. I specifically remember begging them to put me to sleep. That's how much pain I was in. So they took me back down to theatre again, and this time they removed the transplanted kidney. So I'd gone through 2 or 3 days of excruciating agony. I have a really ugly scar on my abdomen, and nothing to show for it. I'm back on dialysis at the moment, and I'm back on the transplant list, waiting for the next one. But as well as all that happening at the moment, I'm working with the NKF on a mini documentary looking at home dialysis for patients. But I think we'd both like to do something a bit more in depth and a bit more long form if we could get the funding. So anyone's listening who fancies funding a documentary, please do get in touch. But that is pretty much my story. That brings you up to date. So I think I've whizzed through that. I definitely covered everything. Pete, are you there?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, you certainly whizzed through it, didn't you? Which means we can have a longer lunch break. But yeah, you have been through the mill, and it just makes you appreciate, things when you're not a kidney patient like myself. So thank you very much for your time, and also thank you for all the work you're doing with us at the moment with the mini documentaries and things. And once they're produced, we'll put them on our website as well. So thank you very much to Stephen. We're going to break for lunch now.